All right, guys, we're almost finished with chapter 7. I know you'll be glad when we are. We just have 2 more sections, and then we'll do a review, and then we'll take a quiz and a test. All right, so let's go ahead and look. Today we're going to talk about lesson 7.6, which is talking about surface areas of pyramids. All right, our last session we talked about the surface area of prisms, and hopefully you all still remember the difference between a prism and a pyramid. All right, remember that prisms have a base, and whatever that base is, it's the same for the top and the bottom. So we learned about triangular prisms, we learned about rectangular prisms, and they have those flat bases, and then they have their sides. And then today we're going to talk about the pyramids, and the pyramids have a flat base, and they're either going to be a square or a triangle in this chapter. You're either going to have a square prism or a triangle prism. There are other prisms, but those are the 2 we're going to focus on in this section. And they too are identified by their base. Sometimes deconstructing the shape or using what they call a net can help visualize what you need to do. This is an example of what a net is. They took this shape, they deconstructed it. They cut it down the sides and they laid it out flat to show you the surface area that it takes up. All right, so this is called a net. It's where you sketch it out and you kind of deconstruct your shape a little bit so you know that you're going to be finding the area of a square, and you're going to find the area of not 1, not 2, but 4 triangles. And we have to add those up to find the surface area of this particular shape. Now, if I were to put this back together again, what shape would I have? I would have a pyramid, because all these points that we have right here, 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 and here would all be brought up to one central point. But I need to call it more than just a pyramid. I'm going to identify it by its base. And what shape is that base? That's right, it's a square. So that would be a square pyramid. All right, so that's what using a net is called. If you see it in your book and you read about it, that's what they're talking about. Remember, we always find the number of faces, and we find the area of each face or flat surface, and then we add them together to find the surface area. Use your base to determine how many sides there will be. If you have a 4-sided base, then you're going to have 4 triangles branching off that will all come to a central point. If you have a triangular base, then you're going to have 3 triangles. 1 for each side of the base that come to a central point. All right, so a square base will have 4 sides. Sorry about that. A square base will have 4 sides, and a triangle base will have 3 sides. All right, so keep that in mind. And that's why I always have you write the number of faces so that you make sure you find the exact number. It'd be a shame to do all that work and be short one or have put in too many, and then that throws your answer off. So always stop and think, how many faces should I be finding the area of? Something else I want you to note, in our book, they're reminding you in this section, it says, in this book, the base of every pyramid is either a square or an equilateral triangle. And if it's an equilateral triangle, that means it is the same dimension on all 3 sides. All right? So the lateral faces are identical triangles. So that's something to keep in mind. And they're showing you here, again, the base here is a square. When they unfold it, how many triangles do I have? I have 4. Why? Because I have 4 sides to my base. All right, and in this section, they will all either be a square or a triangle. All right, let's go ahead and let's practice finding the surface area of this square pyramid. All right, and I do like you to write down how many faces you're going to be finding the area of. All right, it's just a good habit. All right, I have my base, so that's 1. And because it's a square, how many sides are on a square? 4. That's right, 4. So I'm going to have 4 equilateral triangles coming off of that base. All right, so 4 plus 1 means 5. I need to find 5 faces. I'm going to find the base, which is a square. What's my formula for a square? To find the area. Side times side, or side squared. And then I'm going to have 4 triangles. All right, and we're going to keep calling them sides. Now, the interesting thing is they told us an equilateral triangle. That means all my triangles. Once I found out the area of one, I will know the area for all 4. They will all be the same, which is wonderful. So we're going to be using the formula 1/2 of the base times the height. All right, so first let's look at our base. Okay, it's a square, so what does that mean? All the sides are the same. That's why they didn't give us a second measurement right here, because if it's 2 feet on this side, it's going to be 2 feet on that side, because that's what makes it a square. So in this case, I'm going to have 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 is equal to 4. All right, then I'm going to find 1/2 of the base, so 1/2 of 2 times the height, which is 3. Or I could say what's half of 6, and the answer is 3. All right, and because I know that these are all the same, I don't need to sit there and write the formula every single time. I just need to put the number 3 or multiply the number 3 by 4. You could do that. All right, and now I'm going to add them together. All right, so I know I have 4 3s, so 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 plus 4 is 16. And I'm dealing with feet, so my answer is going to be the surface area is equal to 16 feet squared. All right, now let's talk about what it would look like if I had a triangular pyramid. All right, that means all of my faces are triangles. 3 of them will be equilaterals. It doesn't mean that the bottom will be the same as the sides, but all the side ones will be the same. All right, so that's why you need to look at it carefully. When you're looking at the shape when it's constructed right here, this angle, this right angle goes to the base, the bottom. This right angle right here goes to the sides. So be really careful on that, because you want to make sure this is the one that you do 3 times, not this one, not the bottom. Okay? So that's what a triangular pyramid looks like when it's deconstructed. You can see my base or my bottom, and then you can see all 3 of my sides are the same. They are equilaterals. All right, so let's practice finding the surface area. All right, so how many faces then did we say we would have? We have the bottom, right? That's 1. And because it's a triangle, how many sides does a triangle have? 3. So I have 3 sides, so 3 plus the base give me 4 faces. So when I come up here, I'm going to write bottom. Then I'm going to put 3 sides, because I need to remind myself that I'm going to add the side number 3 times, or I can multiply it by 3. Now, because these are all triangles, I will always use the formula 1/2 of BH for each and every one of these. All right? So they're all triangles. So let's look at the bottom. Okay, what number do you see? You see the 2, right? Representing the side. And what number goes with the bottom? Is it 1.7 or the 3 centimeters? Which one goes? Right, the one laying on the floor of the shape. That's the one we want. So we're going to say 1/2 times 2 times 1.7. Now I want you to be careful. As soon as you saw a decimal, you shouldn't be afraid of it, but you should make a note of it. I'm going to have a decimal in my answer. I need to make sure I have my decimals lined up. All right? Now for our side. All right, we're going to keep the 1/2 because that's part of our formula. 1/2 of 2 times 3. All right, because the 3 centimeters goes with the sides. And I'm going to have that number, that answer 3 times. All right, so when I multiply, and I would just go ahead and find half of 2. What is half of 2? 1. What is 1 times 1.7? Right, it's 1.7. All right, and you can do the same thing here. 1/2 of 2 is 1. What's 1 times 3? 3. Now I want you to be careful. We're talking about the whole number 3, so I need to write 3.0. If you would have lined your 3 up with the 7, you would have made it 3/10. That's not the same as the whole number 3. All right, so I have 3 sides that are equal to 3. Remember, I don't need to solve that each time. You can if you'd like, but you don't need to because we already know that all the sides are equilateral triangles. They told us that, and that's how it will be this entire section. All right, so now I'm going to add, keeping my decimal. 3 3s are 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. All right, so my final answer for surface area is going to be 10.7 centimeters squared. All right, it's not hard, right? It's pretty easy. Now I'd kind of like you to do the next 2. All right, and they both have different size or style bases, so you need to keep that in mind. So the first thing I want you to do is tell me the number of faces. The number of faces you see on the purple pyramid. Okay, how many of you got 5? You should have gotten 5 because you can tell by this base that it is not a triangle, it is a square. So I have a square that has 4 sides. I have 4 triangles coming off of those 4 sides, and I have 1 bottom. So let's go ahead and let's write bottom. And then we're going to put side. All my sides are triangles, so I'll be using 1/2 of the base, which is 7 times 4. My bottom is a square, so I know it's going to be what? 7 times 7, because on a square, all the sides are the same. All right? And we know that 7 times 7 is 49. Now I've got to do my triangles. Don't forget that 1/2. What's 1/2 of 28? 14. Good. And I'm going to write that number 4 times, or you could multiply it by 4, whichever you prefer. Now you need to add those up. So go ahead and take a minute, add them up. All right, how many of you got 105? If you did it correctly. And then don't forget, you should always square your units. And we were dealing with yards. All right? All right, now let's look at our orange pyramid. All right, you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to come up with the number of faces. All right? Now, what shape is my base on this one? Right, it's a triangle. So that's one side, the base. Well, how many sides does a triangle have again? 3. So I'm going to have 3 triangles coming off of it, coming to a point. So 3 plus 1 is 4. I need to find 4 bases, and they're all going to be triangles. All right, so I'm going to have the bottom, and I'm going to have 3 sides. All right, now look at your measurements carefully. Make sure you're choosing the right ones. For the bottom, I know my formula is going to be 1/2. The bottom is 8, the base, and the height is 6.9. All right, now let's do our side. We know it's going to be 1/2 of 8, and then it's going to be times 7. All right, so let's go ahead, and we know that'll be carried down 3 times. All right, let's go ahead and get our numbers together. 1/2 of 8 is 4. 4 times 6.9. Take a minute and figure that out. Okay, did you get 27.6? Good. And then the next one is 1/2 of 8, which is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. But look at this. Don't forget you have a decimal. All right? Don't forget you have to line it up correctly. It was 28 wholes. The whole numbers go in front of the decimal. Now add that all up. All right, you should have gotten 111.6 meters squared. All right, before we close out our lesson today, I want to see if you remember our shapes, okay? What would you call this first shape? What would you call this one? A rectangular prism is correct. And we know it's a prism because it has a flat base on the top and a flat base on the bottom. All right, what would we call this second shape? Correct, it's a triangular prism. Here's my base. All right, my bases are triangles. Everything else are parallelograms, rectangles, whatever, but my bases are triangles, and I always identify my shape by the base. And then this very last one, what would we call this? A cube. Good, very good. All right. Don't forget, get on IXL, practice, go to Big Ideas, do your homework, and see what you think. Let me know if you have any questions.